terrible. But she was dedicated. She had this like meter, and she would be out on the beach taking photographs with her 35mm camera, and then we would have slide shows. And I can really remember these slideshows, and she would just like show slides of these really whacked out photographs that she would do. And I wish I still had those photographs, because they're actually kind of what I do. So she would make these photographs, and then I started doing black and white photography, processing, printing, and then when Marilyn and I split up, I met a young lady who said, "Oh, photography, that's not really art." So I stopped making photographs for years and years and years, because, well, photography isn't art, painting and drawing and prints are art. So I started a print shop, and meanwhile, I'm still taking photographs secretly. And but they were always kind of weird. They were always kind of out of focus. Or I was asked to take photographs of a wedding once, and I was never asked to take photographs again, because the photographs were like, I'd be like taking pictures of people's feet, or blurry hands, or turning heads, or not traditional wedding photographs. So I have this inventory of images that none of them really work by themselves, which has always been really, really frustrating. So when I was 60, I decided to go and get my master's degree, and I was introduced to this program called Max. And I initially, and this seems to be part of my rhythm, is like someone will introduce me to something and I'll go, "Well, that sucks," or "It's not relevant," or whatever it is, So and then after school, I decided I'm going to check this out. And I had this image of 3 slide projectors that you could project slides. Does everyone know what a slide projector is? Yeah, that's like really old school, right? Where you could project 3 layers of slides and control each one of those slide projectors independently, and do what you wanted to do with them in an environment, like on a screen or a wall or a building, on clouds. And so this process, this Max hardware, enabled me to build the app that has 3 slide projectors, a movie projector, and I'm working on sound, to be able to project onto a screen and film or photograph. So I also make still prints from these images. And like this sequence here was actually photographed on the screen during the January 6th insurrection, or whatever they call that. But it morphs into images of just day-to-day stuff. And I really, when I finally figured out how to control this thing, which I really can't, I really fell in love with these images, where it made image making enchanting and enjoyable and mysterious and surprising. And I really love being surprised in making images. And when Marilyn's talking about this kind of calligraphic drawing, and then these images appear, and I think there's kind of a similarity that these things happen. I go, wow, and then I can film that or photograph it, or it just goes and it is never to appear again, because I set this up so they're random chance operations. So the images and the combinations may never ever reappear in that particular sequence. And I kind of like that, because if you're present for them and you see them and you respond to them, and then they're gone. And I find that really quite wonderful. So I'm in the process of continuing to explore this, because there's so much yet to explore. And continuing to photograph. I mean, as a photographer, what that requires of me is to be out there. So that's what I do. Any questions? Yeah.
It seems to be a dystopian or almost degradation to the image quality or image layering and transition. Is that intentional that you're controlling it, or is that purely haphazard?
It's random, but I think in terms of the source of my images, I photograph stuff that's deteriorating, or the detritus of our own experience, and waste and all that stuff, and that becomes a part of the imagery. And I've always, even when I was just getting into photography, I would always be photographing, like, there was a place in the woods in California and somebody had dumped a Volkswagen in a ravine. So I photographed it, you know, and I still have that photograph. And it's like, oh, I'm still photographing the same stuff. Yeah.
What's not visible here are your lithographs. Can you talk about the relationship between these? Are they stills from these? Or?
Yes. Yeah. So what Jessica's doing is saying is there's a process that I learned where I can take a still image of this, let's say this image, and then you go into Photoshop, separate it into CMYK, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, and key separations, and then use gum arabic and printing ink to print a monoprint. Then I go into hand color. And this has opened up a whole new kind of source for me.
So could you talk about like the step, that's the process, but the step of having these, like you're talking about how you may never see this combination because it's, you know, always generating a new composition. So is there something about that screen grab, like how do you make the decision, like where to stop it and use it and then put it into something so static as a...
It's very impulsive, so
Okay.
I'll be looking and, you know, and there's like, oh, I just missed that one. Oh, well, okay, I'll wait for the next one, and sometimes they never come.
Okay.
And I think it's interesting that with any kind of image making, the image has to be read. One has to be able to, so some of the images, like I'm doing an image right now, and I have it up on the wall, and I don't like it. It just doesn't read. It doesn't read as an image. And I think that, so those kinds of rules of color, composition, those still play a really important part in terms of how I respond to something. But, you know, stuff like this is just like, you could never photograph that, you know, and then it's gone. But these are actually recorded films. And then the monoprints add a whole nother kind of, they look totally different.
Did you talk about how you can adjust on your Max program? You can adjust.
So what Marilyn's saying is that what I have control of is speed, contrast, hue, all that stuff. I can control that, and with each separate layer, I can projector. So I still like the idea of 3 separate projectors. My grandmother would have loved this, you know. She would have thrown me all over it. So, okay. Any other questions? Cool.